All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down UFC Vegas 95. So before we jump into it, let me just pull up my shared screen. There we go. And all right, we're good to go. So quick recap on last week. Last week was not good whatsoever. We pretty much lost everything that we gained after UFC 304. After 304, we won 8 units and we won like 3 units on regionals outside of that. And then last weekend, we got cooked on PFL, lost like 3 units. And then we got cooked on UFC, lost like 4 units. So a bit of a downswing. Definitely want to try to come back a little bit better this week. Not the best card for it, kind of a tough card betting wise and watching wise, but I think there's some decent spots. I think there's some dogs that should be barking. So we'll talk about it. There's a few bets I've already made and we'll get into it real quick. Let me catch up with everybody. Mushroom, my guy. What's up, brother? Thank you for tuning in. 4 more sleeps. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing with this card. Champ bets. Let's go indeed. And my guy, thanks for tuning in, brother. All right. So let's jump into it. Let's see what Champ's saying over here. That one judge giving Figgy 30-27. Yeah, dude, that's why I don't play spreads unless it's like good plus money, because I learned the lesson the hard way. You can have a perfect read. Your fighter can win 1 round just like you need them to. It's clear as day. And all it takes is one bad judge to give a 30-27 that shouldn't be there to mess up your bet. So that's why my new rule going into this year was if I got a spread bet, I'm only playing it if it's plus money. Otherwise, I'm staying away. But we can jump right into the card. So first fight up, we've got Stephanie Luciano versus Talita Alencar. This is a rematch. Luciano 5-1-1. She's 24 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Alencar on the other side, she's 5-0-1. That one for each of them is that draw they had. She's 33, so she's going to be she's going to be 9 years older. 5'1", she's 5 inches shorter and 58-inch reach. So she's given up, what is that? 8 inches in reach. So all the tangibles go to Luciano. She's bigger, she's younger, and she's probably more likely to improve. But I think the line here is pretty crazy. I don't know how you watch that first fight and are comfortable laying minus 170 on Luciano. I get it. I get Alencar gassed really bad, and she doesn't have much of a striking game. But first of all, she gassed probably because she was on short notice against Ryan Amanda. Did she gas? Not really. Did she slow down? Kind of, but I don't think her cardio looked that bad. It looked pretty poor in the Luciano performance in their first fight. But I think part of that might have been because she was on short notice. But outside of that, like, I just don't see it because Luciano's takedown defense is so bad. I know that the stats say she defended like, I think 20 out of 24 she defended. But most of those missed takedowns came in the 3rd round, a few in the 2nd when she was already tired was Alencar. But even then, like in the 1st and 2nd round, Alencar's takedowns, at first they were well-timed, clean, and of course they worked. But later on in the fight, she wasn't timing them on it well at all. She looked exhausted in the 2nd round already. And she got the takedowns easily with no setup whatsoever. I watched her go across the octagon with no setup, grab a single, and bring Luciano to the ground. I mean, Luciano's takedown defense is horrible, terrible. Maybe it's improved. She's been out for a while. She's only 24 years old. Very likely that she's improving. But she's not at a major camp that I have reason to believe, like, yeah, they're going to really prepare her for the takedown defense and catch her up to the grappling of somebody of the caliber of Alencar. And I just don't know that she's going to be that much better in the takedown defense. Does she know what to expect now? Yes, she does. But so does Alencar. Alencar understands that she can't just gas out in the 1st round. She can't go out all out trying to get a finish, trying to get those takedowns. She has to pace herself. Easier said than done when your striking is pretty poor and you're fighting somebody who does have pretty solid striking. So I get that. But at the end of the day, it's a pretty binary fight, right? Either Luciano can 100% keep this on the feet, or Alencar gasses and Luciano has success, or Alencar is able to take her down, control her the way she did in the first fight, and not gas this time and win. That's the way I see it. I'm kind of leaning towards the Alencar side just because I was so underwhelmed with the takedown defense of Luciano. I was surprised. I think it's absolutely terrible and one of the worst I've seen in a while. So I think that Alencar on the feet, is she anywhere as good as Luciano? Not really. I think the major issue with her isn't so much the technique, it's that she doesn't have a good reach. She has 58-inch reach, which is just tiny. So for her to reach her opponent, she's got to get real close. And Luciano, she doesn't need to do that. She can maintain the range where she can stay safe from takedown attempts or safe-ish, safer than she would be if she was up close, and do her work there. But I just think that Alencar will get those takedowns. I don't think enough will have changed with Luciano, where Luciano's suddenly going to have fantastic takedown defense and be able to keep it on the feet. I think Alencar will get her down. I think Alencar is going to control her. And personally, I think Alencar is going to win this time. But am I dying to play either side? No. I think the line is horrible. I think the line is stupid. Minus 170 doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I am tempted to get there with Alencar, and I might. I'm seeing plus 150 on Caesars. I think that's a good line. I might get there. Of course, I'm just a little hesitant because, put everything else aside, I just don't like her striking at all. She's not a great striker, and that reach is really, really small. So for me, if I'm backing her, I'm really, really depending on the grappling, and I don't like having to depend on my fighter being just good at one thing. I don't love that. But if they're good enough of a dog and I think the line is wrong, I'll get involved. So I'll probably get involved. I'm gonna wait though, see what happens with the line. If it becomes a close line, just gonna pass. I'm okay with it. If Alencar becomes a little bit more of a dog, I'll probably get involved on the Alencar side, and she's gonna be my pick too. And we can move on. Next up, we've got Jarno Errens versus Youssef Zalal. Hold on real quick. I need to turn on the AC. I'm dying over here. All right, that should be a little better. Next up, though, we've got Jarno Errens versus Youssef Zalal. Errens 14-5-1. He's 29 years old. 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Youssef Zalal on the other side. He's also 14-5-1. He's 27, so he's 2 years younger. 1 inch shorter, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. So, personally, I don't think Zalal should ever be minus 400 unless he's fighting like a complete nobody. I don't really think that makes sense, especially against Errens. I think that's kind of a crazy line because if Zalal doesn't get him down, striking's close. They're both good kickboxers. Errens is a great kickboxer. His output was my main issue with him this entire time. And he came out in his last fight, and I think he landed over 100 significant strikes. So that seems to be less of an issue now. And if he comes out that way and he looks like that and he's throwing like that, on the feet, this is super competitive. I don't think Zalal stands out on the feet. I don't think Zalal is a crazy power puncher. And I don't think Zalal is like, what was I trying to say? I just don't think he's leagues ahead of Errens on the feet. I think it's very close, and I don't think his output is very good either, Zalal. I think that's what I was trying to say. Now, the reason I understand that he's a sizable favorite is the grappling, of course. Errens, not the best takedown defense. He does have some really underrated jiu-jitsu. I'll say that. But Youssef Zalal is also pretty well-versed on the ground. I think he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. His wrestling is pretty good. Pretty sure he comes from a kickboxing background, but he's been very wrestling heavy in a lot of his fights. And I feel like if he's smart, he's probably going to do that here. So I do think Zalal probably wins. I think on the feet, like I said, it's close and competitive, but Zalal, he's a good striker too. And then he also has the upside of that grappling that Errens doesn't really have. And Errens sometimes can just accept position on his back, try to find subs, try to do stuff, and kind of just get stuck there. And that's going to be a bad place to be against Zalal. I'm interested in like the decision props maybe for Zalal. Maybe an Errens play, but I'm not dying to do it just because the grappling. It's a fight that I want to come back to. There's a few fights that I need to come back to. This is one of them, but Zalal will be the pick, and we can move on. It's mostly just dependent on the grappling. Talking about depending on the grappling. Real quick, though, I do want to catch up here. My guy Dan, I see him in there. Smash the like button. Indeed, make sure you guys are doing that. If you're on Twitter, like it, retweet it, do something. It helps a lot. Would really appreciate it. And if you're not already, you probably are, but make sure you're subscribed to Half the Battle, one of my favorite personal podcasts. Personal favorite podcasts. Zalal season numbers awful now. It's not worth playing. Yeah, I don't know what you can do with Zalal minus 400 or whatever it is. But moving on, we've got Karl Williams versus Jhonata Diniz. Williams, he's going to be 10-1-0. He's 34, 6'3" with a 79-inch reach. On the other side, Diniz 7-0, undefeated, 33. He's 1 year younger, going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have about the same reach. As binary as fights get, I mean, couldn't get more. Sorry about that. Got a little overexcited. Got super hot in here. But yeah, so super binary. I mean, we got a guy in Karl Williams who's a fantastic wrestler, good cardio. He can slow down a little bit, but overall good cardio. Striking is all right. It's not terrible, but he's not really a striker, and he definitely should not strike here with Diniz. And then on the other side with Diniz, I mean, dude hits like a train. He's a good kickboxer. Seems a little slow, but I doubt that matters here because on the feet, I think he's got a significant edge, especially in the power, but in the technical striking as well. But it comes down to his takedown defense, right? I don't have a super good read on it, but I mean, the way Austin Lane was able to take him down, and not only take him down, but just control him easily, is not a good look. Lane is a big, big athletic dude, but prior to that fight, I don't think he had ever shot a takedown, not on the tape that I had seen. He doesn't do it. And he was smart, and he wrestled, but it just shows that you don't really have to be a good wrestler at all to take Diniz down. And now you got a guy in Williams who is a good wrestler. So I'm not really sure why they made this matchup, because I imagine they're trying to push Diniz. He's a guy who's pretty marketable, you know, big, strong dude, heavyweight, who can get knockouts. I don't really know why you would throw him in with a guy like Karl Williams this early in his career. It doesn't make much sense, but again, pretty binary for me. If Williams can get his game going, there should be easy money. He could very well end up looking like minus 800. But we've seen fights like the Chase Sherman fight, for example, where if he's not getting the takedowns, he does not look comfortable. His striking isn't that great. And it's just hard to see him putting together a coherent 15 minutes on the feet against Diniz. Whereas I think Diniz, if he can stuff the takedowns, he's so live to knock Williams out, at least hurt him multiple times. So yeah, it really comes down to whether you think that Diniz can stuff those takedowns, whether you think Diniz can get back up. Personally, I don't really think he will, and I don't think he can. So I'm probably going to pass or get to a Williams bet. I haven't decided yet. Again, another fight I want to come back to and look at a little bit more when I have a fresher mind. But I kind of have to lean with the guy in Williams who has a significant grappling edge here. And I think he's going to be able to pull it off and probably look like a big favorite doing so. But of course, you can't discount the bonk coming from Diniz. Champ over here kind of agreeing with me pretty much. Probably Williams via wrestling, but anytime it's on the feet, he's got a chance to be bonked, 100%. But we can move on. Next up, we've got Karol Rosa versus Pannie Kianzad. Rosa 17-6-0. She's 29 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. Kianzad 16-8-0. She's 32, so she's 3 years older, 2 inches taller, and she's going to have a 1 inch reach disadvantage. I'm not crazy about this fight. I played Rosa at minus 135. I got a lot of CLV, which makes me really anxious because if you know me, if I got CLV, that bet's losing. If I got reverse CLV'd, it's a lock. That's just how it is for me. I don't know why. I don't know why it works out that way, but it does. But hopefully it doesn't happen this time. It didn't happen with Umar. Got good CLV there, and I didn't lose that one. So hopefully it stays the same here. The way I see it, it's a close-ish fight in that I think Kianzad can make it competitive, and I wouldn't be shocked if she won. But I say ish because I kind of think that Rosa should win pretty comfortably. I think that her output is just a lot better than Kianzad. She's a younger fighter. I think the trajectory of her career is very different than that of Kianzad's. I can see Rosa going and going still and going up in the rankings, whereas Kianzad, I think she's about not done, but I don't think she's going up higher in the rankings, if that makes sense. And I also think that outside of having a serious output advantage, does Rosa, I also think that Rosa can take her down. Kianzad doesn't have the best takedown defense. It's not horrible, not by any means, but it's not great. And Rosa does have some pretty good wrestling. And if she can just mix it up with that output, throw a lot on the feet, throw in some takedowns, I think this is a very winnable fight for Rosa, a very possible 30-27. So I'm pretty comfortable with my bet at minus 135. Would I play Rosa at minus 200? No way in hell, because I could see it being competitive. Rosa sometimes does have performances that aren't as great as others. And I can see Kianzad maybe squeaking by, but the more I think about it, the more I look at it, the more I think that the most likely outcome is Rosa by decision, and close-ish, but should be a pretty clear win for her. And I also think she's got more of a pop to her punch. You know, she's not really knocking anybody out, but she seems to hit harder than Kianzad. So for me, it's a Rosa spot, and we can move on in a sec. Let's see what we got here. My guy Dogfather finally here. Jhonata season. We'll see. Champ thinks Pannie is live. She's been fighting the better competition. Yeah, I get it. Any concerns with Rosa never making adjustments? What adjustments is she going to have to make here? I just don't really see a reason to be concerned about it. Is Pannie just going to be beating her ass on the feet? I don't think so. Is Pannie going to be like out grappling her? I doubt it. So I'm just not really super. I just don't really see why I have to worry that much about her making adjustments in this particular fight. But we can move on. She strikes with Aldana. Sure, but she was having success, wasn't she? And it's not like she has to do one or the other here. Like, I don't think she has to strike with Kianzad to win. I don't think she has to grapple with Kianzad to win. I think she can do either one. Not in 2-3. I don't even know what you're referring to with 2-3. But at the end of the day, dude, I bet her at minus 135, not minus 200. And we can move on. Next up, we've got Charalampos Grigoriou versus Toshiomi Kazama. Grigoriou 8-4-0. He's 32 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. On the other hand side, Kazama 10-4-0. He's 27, so he's 5 years younger. Same height, and he's going to be at a 1-inch reach advantage. Really don't like either side here. Charalampos, really terrible performance against Chad. I don't rate Chad highly whatsoever. And Charalampos came out there, looked okay in the first round, got extremely gassed trying to get the takedowns, and then just fell apart. Got outstruck by a guy with a 64-inch reach, which takes some effort. And just a terrible all-around look. And in general, even outside of that, you know, his fights aren't super impressive. He's got decent power. The striking is okay, good leg kicks and decent wrestling. But he's nothing special, nothing that stands out with him. And Kazama on the other side, similar story. You know, he's been very underwhelming in the UFC since he's gotten here. He is primarily a grappler. His striking is pretty poor, if you ask me. The output isn't good, and just in general, the striking's not good. The grappling's pretty good. It's not so traditional. He's not going to really shoot doubles like Charalampos will. He's more so of a trip guy, that kind of thing, getting his opponents off balance. What I do like about Kazama, I like his ground game, but I also like the way that, especially in that, I don't know how to pronounce the fella's name, and I don't want to butcher it, but his first road to UFC fight, he was really hanging on this guy for like half the fight, just hanging on him, wearing on him, hanging on him. And I think that could really work here against Charalampos. His cardio is questionable. And we saw that if you make him really grapple, then he really does start to tire out a bit more. And if Kazama can just hang on him, wear on him, throw maybe some knees to the body, try to get those trips, I think he can tire him out and start to find success. Now, I don't really want to bet Kazama as a dog, even though I think he's got a chance of winning. And that's just mostly because I just don't like his striking whatsoever. And if he can't get it to the ground, I don't really know what he's going to do here, because Charalampos, he's not a world champion boxer, but he's a better striker than Kazama. I don't think there's much question there. So the pick is Charalampos. Not going to bet either guy. But what bet I kind of do like is Fight Goes or over 2.5. Both of those are plus money. I think I saw the over 2.5 at like plus 145-ish. And I think I saw Fight Goes at like plus 185. And I'm pretty surprised by that line, to be honest. I think it's because people just think that, oh, Kazama got knocked out by Armfield. He got knocked out by Nakamura. Charalampos will knock him out, right? I don't think it's like a guarantee. Charalampos hits hard, sure, but I don't think he's guaranteed to come out here and just knock Kazama out. And then outside of that, who finishes? If there's no knockout on the Lampos side, who's going to finish? Kazama sub? Probably not. I don't really think so. I don't think his jiu-jitsu is going to work on like higher level guys. Not that Charalampos is super high level, but he's a higher level than some of the dudes Kazama was submitting on the regionals. And Kazama's definitely not knocking anybody out. So for me, I kind of like the overs, especially at plus money. And I feel like there's going to be grappling involved. I feel like there is going to be clinching involved. And I just think that that's going to kill the clock. So I think that's a bet that I probably will get to. I'm not going to bet a side, but I'm probably going to bet for either the fight to go to decision or for the fight to go over 2.5. Yeah, he got knocked out 2 times in a row, sure. But again, do I necessarily think that Charalampos hits hard like Armfield? No, I don't. And I know everybody's super low on Nakamura now because he's not getting finishes, but Nakamura is also a freak athlete. So I don't blame Kazama for getting caught. And I just don't think Charalampos is this crazy KO threat. So I like the overs. Let's see what we got going on over here. Real Fight Picks. Thanks for tuning in, brother. I get it. Yeah, I don't think anybody has a super strong read. What else we got here? JJ saying the over on the Williams fight. Grigoriou sucks. Agreed. Yeah. Dogfather liking Kazama. I can understand it. Like I said, if Kazama does that thing where he's like wearing on them, and the way that Charalampos just completely gassed, hanging on Chad against the fence, Kazama can take over. He's got the grappling for it. Pace, yeah, I agree as well. It's just the only thing is I just wish he had better striking. If he had better striking, it would be a pretty easy underdog play for me, but I don't like his striking at all. He's like plus 190. I don't think that's bad. I'm like kind of tempted. Let's move on before I talk myself onto Kazama. All right. Next up, we've got Yana Santos versus Chelsea Chandler. Santos is 14-8-0. 34 years old. She's 5'8" with a 68.5-inch reach. Chandler on the other side is 6'2-0. She's 33. So she's going to be 1 year younger. She's going to be the same height, and she's going to have just about the same reach. So for me here, I played Santos early, played her at minus 105, and I played her to win 2 units at first. And it was pretty much based on the fact that I just don't like Chandler's style. I don't think she's that great. I bet her against Nunes because there was a clear path there for her to out-grapple Nunes. And I don't know if that path is as clear here. I mean, I get it. In a way it is because Santos is deficient in the grappling. She's not a strong grappler. So if Chandler can get her down, yes, she's going to look good. She's going to look like she has an edge. But I just feel like Nunes is going to be a bit easier to take down than Santos will. Santos has faced really good grapplers. Those are the people taking her down. Those are the people controlling her. And I just don't think that Chandler is on that level. I don't think that Chandler is a technical wrestler by any means of the imagination. Her, like the majority of her takedowns or her getting her opponents to the ground is just based on her physicality. She's a very big, strong woman. So she's able to get her opponents down. But I don't think that's going to work on higher level competition. She's going to have to time the takedown. She's going to have to set them up. Just dragging people down because you're stronger than you won't work at the higher level. And I think that Santos is at a higher level than Chandler and at a higher level than anybody Chandler has beat thus far. And on the feet, is Santos the best range striker? No, but her output is pretty good. She throws a lot of kicks. The hands are decent. I would really, really like if she threw more hands, but I'd be more concerned if Chandler was a good striker, and she's not at all. I think that Chandler's striking stinks. Everything is like super loopy, and just like even the jab has a loop to it. Just no straight strikes whatsoever. And because of the way she's striking, she's so hittable. So I feel like the striking is going to probably go to Santos. The physicality, grappling, probably give to Chandler. Clinch game, major ups to Santos here. Santos is really good in the clinch. She's strong. She's physical. And Chandler is strong and physical too, but I've seen her reversed in the clinch. I've seen her controlled in the clinch. And I think that Santos can do a lot of good work there, and I expect her to do so. So for me, I think Santos keeps it on the feet for the most part, outstrikes Chandler, outworks her in the clinch, and wins an ugly decision. But because I kind of don't like how close the margins are, and I'm pretty dependent on my read being correct that Santos won't be completely out-grappled here, I wanted to lower my stake. So I hedged on Chandler a little bit. I played her at plus 125 for 0.8 units. So essentially now I just have about a 1.1 unit bet on Santos, and I'm pretty good with that. I think that I'm comfortable with because I like my read. I think Santos should win. I think she's a higher level fighter than Chandler. I think she has the tools to beat her. I just didn't want 2 units down on such a close margins fight where if my read is incorrect, I'm really screwed. So that's the way I did it. Probably partially because of my Willis read last week, Jaleel Willis against Anthony Ivy. The way I saw it was Willis is not that bad on the ground and his takedown defense is good. And if he can just keep it on the feet, he should win the fight. And that's how I feel here. And look what happened. I mean, Willis, my God, he looked horrible. Completely out grappled. I couldn't be more wrong with my read. Sometimes it happens, right? Our reads aren't always going to be right. And I'd like to leave some room for error in my bets. And that's why I ended up hedging down a little bit. But we can move on now. Real quick, let's see what we got going on here. Big Body talking about the previous fight, Kazama live for him. I can get behind that. Let's see what else we got. Real fight picks. Thank you for that. Let's see. Santos is tempting. Chandler is Nate Diaz without the skills. Santos by split. I can see it. Love the shape Yana's in for this one. Do worry. She's got a foot out the door. And Chandler, anytime on top of you got to worry. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think she's got her foot out the door necessarily. I know she's losing, but she looked good in her last fight, right? What was it? The Karol Rosa fight. She looked pretty good. And but yeah, I do agree. Like if Chandler does end up on top, I'll be a little nervous for sure. Jay saying roid factor as well. Okay. I mean, hey, these days it's not really so much of a joke. You kind of have to consider it. But yeah, Santos regardless for me. And we can move on. I'm hyped to talk about this fight. All right. Next up, we've got Danny Barlow versus Nikolay Veretennikov. Barlow 8-0 undefeated. He's 29 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. On the other side, we've got Veretennikov. He's 12-4-0, 34 years old. He's 5 years older. Going to be 1 inch shorter and going to be at a 5-inch reach disadvantage. So Barlow is very, very good. Great prospect, young still, and already has a fantastic striking base to build on if he can just get some grappling going. But the line is crazy. The line is crazy, and it's priced as if Veretennikov is a bum. And I don't know if people just aren't taping it. I know everybody loves Barlow now. Left hand to God. He's going to left hand to God him. That's what I'm seeing on Twitter. But I feel like people just aren't looking at Veretennikov because I don't know how you can look at him and be like, yeah, Barlow minus 400, yes. Like, I don't really understand how you can get there. Barlow will be faster. Barlow probably hits harder. And Barlow is definitely better at range and has better output. I'll give him those things. But Veretennikov is a good striker in his own right. You know, he's very competitive with Michael Morales on the Contender Series to the point where Morales decided to wrestle. And outside of that, you know, he's a good striker. He's not as good at range as Barlow. He doesn't have the same reach. He doesn't have the same weapons. But he's still a good striker at range. He's very solid in the clinch. I think if he clinches up with Barlow, he can do damage. He can do a lot of good work. I think he's strong and physical. And I think that he can possibly get takedowns. Now, he's not coming out here and wrestling consistently in every single fight. So it's kind of like not an assumption, but you're hoping that he does something that he doesn't often do. But I'd have more of a problem with that if I was betting him as a favorite. But he's plus 285. So I'm okay with having to kind of make an assumption that, yeah, he is going to grapple this time. And when I have seen him on the ground, he's looked good. He has good control. He's good at keeping it there. He's able to get ground and pound going. And Barlow, there's very little info on his takedown defense. There's really only the DePuma fight. And while he did get easily taken down and controlled in that first round, to be fair to him, after that, it didn't happen again. DePuma did not have success after that. But again, DePuma's also a very low-level fighter, and I don't think he's had a single MMA fight since losing to Barlow. So I just think that Veretennikov at plus 285, there's too many reasons to play him. Like, he's a competitive striker in this fight. He'll have the advantage if they go to the clinch. He has more MMA experience, and he's got a possible wrestling upside. You're paying plus 285. It's good. in my opinion, it's a good price. So I played him for a unit to win two, almost 3 units. And I like my bet. There's of course a possibility that Barlow comes out and styles on him. I'm very prepared for that outcome. If it happens, it is what it is. I do think Barlow is the real deal, but I also think he's still very green. I think he's very green still. He's only 8-0, only 8 professional fights. And I just think it's going to take some time for him to really fully come into his own. So the pick is Barlow for the purposes of just making a pick. But in terms of where my money's going, I've already placed it on Veretennikov. I think he's got a good shot to win this fight, and I like that spot. So we're going to move on. Real quick, let's see what we got. River Rat, appreciate you. Let's cash Moneyline Mills. Let's cash Indeed. Think Barlow wins, but odds are wild. That's pretty much how I feel. Moving on. So this is supposed to be the co-main event now, I think, because the Gutierrez fight is now a different opponent. He's not fighting Basharat anymore. He's fighting Quang now. So we'll get to that fight, but this is the order on Tapology, so we'll stick with it. Next up, we've got Chepe Mariscal versus Damon Jackson. Mariscal, he is 16-6-0, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Jackson on the other side, 23-6-1. He's 36. He's 5 years older, 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. This is another spot where, like, I guess I lean Chepe because he's younger and because he has, like, I guess he has more finishing upside on the feet. But after taping it, my gut and my eyes are kind of telling me Jackson's very live here. Now, my issue with him, similar to my issue with Kazama, is I don't really like Jackson's striking. I don't think he's the best striker. He's got nice knees, good front kicks, but the hands are okay. They're okay. But on the feet, Mariscal should be a better striker. Now, the thing is, Mariscal is not really a great striker at range either because he's kind of small for the division. So you don't really see him coming out here, maintaining range, landing jab 1-2s, moving out of the way. He doesn't do that. He's more of a guy who kind of just comes into brawl. He's great in the pocket, super dangerous, hits hard, but he's very hittable too in his own right. And if you can throw something at range, if you are a decent range striker, you can find a lot of success against him if you can keep the distance. Jackson's got the reach for it, but he doesn't really have the style for it. He's not really coming out here popping jabs and 1-2s. That's not really something he does. So on the feet, I kind of favor Chepe. Not a ton, but I favor him just because he's going to bring it. He's the one with more power, and I can see him kind of just pushing Jackson up against the fence and kind of just rip into the body, rip into the head, doing what he does, making it a brawl. But at the same time, exactly what I just said kind of plays into an argument for Jackson, right? Because if Chepe's not a great range striker, right, and he can't maintain range, hit the jab, hit the 1-2s, blah, 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 then what's he got to do to land strikes? He's got to close the distance, right? He's got to get close into the pocket. And that's going to give Jackson exactly the opportunities he needs to take it to the ground. He's a pretty good wrestler. He's got decent timing. He's got good control. He's got a great back take. And once he's on your back, he's very difficult to get off of you. And he's going to be the bigger, more physical guy. I don't know if he's a stronger guy. Maybe not. But he's going to be the bigger, more physical guy. So I think that he will be able to get Mariscal down. I think he can control him. I don't necessarily think he's going to submit him. But I can see him winning the fight just by being able to bring it to the ground, control him, do some work, threaten some subs, some ground and pound, and win the minutes that way. Because on the feet, yeah, it's probably Chepe, but like, is Chepe going to come out here and get his own takedowns? He's at a judo base, right? I've done judo. I did it for a few years before I did wrestling. And judo is very momentum based. Like, if your opponent's coming at you fast and you can grab him, the throw is going to come a lot easier because you don't really have to do much. You just have to turn. Use your hips, turn, get your hands where they need to be, and you get the toss, the throw, whatever you want to call it. I don't know that style is going to work on Jackson. Jackson doesn't have the best takedown defense, but our throws are really going to work on him. And when Chepe's shooting doubles and singles, they're not good. Like, they're not. When he shot them against Charrier, those weren't good. Those weren't technical. Those weren't well timed. There was nothing good about them. And I also don't think he won that fight, but I'm biased. I had money on Charrier. But my point is that his offensive grappling is mostly dependent on being able to get throws and trips and whatnot. And I don't think that style is going to work against Jackson. So for Chepe to win the fight, he's going to have to outstrike Jackson and keep it there. For Jackson to win the fight, he's going to have to bring this to the ground. And I'm kind of feeling more and more like Jackson is going to be able to bring it to the ground. And I think he can win the fight. I'm a little concerned about his chin, and I'm a little concerned about Chepe making this a dog fight because he's got that dog in him and he fights for your money. But honestly, you can say the same thing for Jackson. Jackson's also got that dog in him, and he also fights for your money. So I'm pretty tempted on Jackson. Right now, it's another fight where I'm okay with just staying away for a sec and waiting and seeing what happens with the line. But if I can get like plus 200 on Jackson, I'd be pretty happy with that, and I would probably play him. So it's something I'm considering, and we'll see if I get there. But yeah, Chepe's the pick, I guess. Not confident at all about it, though. It's 100% dog or pass for me, and I very well might get to the dog. All right, next up, we've got Chris Gutierrez versus Quang Lei. Just gonna call him Quang, but Gutierrez 25-2. He's 33 years old, 5'9" at the 67-inch reach. On the other side, Quang 8-0 undefeated, 32. He's 1 year younger, gonna be 3 inches shorter, and he's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage though. Now, if you guys don't know who Quang is, he is a regional fella, mostly fought in LFA. I actually think he might have only fought in LFA. I don't remember off the top of my head, but most of his fights have been under the LFA banner. And he's a good fighter, but this is a pretty steep step up for him. Quang, he's mostly a striker, and I actually like his striking. Nice, clean combinations. He'll go to the body. He has a good amount of power. He can put those lights out pretty quick, and he's decently well-rounded where he can go for takedowns. He can get takedowns. He can do decent work on the ground. Doesn't really have the best control, but coming in here on short notice against Gutierrez, it's a tough ask because, first of all, it's short notice, right? Already short notice, and you're coming up fighting a guy who has fought really good fighters and is by far the best competition you've ever faced. But on top of that, it's just a style that you haven't really ever seen. Quang has never in his life fought a guy who's going to throw almost 100 leg kicks in a fight, and Gutierrez has done that. The dude throws so many damn leg kicks. And to me, that could be a detriment also, especially with him, because when he throws his leg kicks, his hands go down almost every single time. And Quang can bang. And if Gutierrez is throwing these leg kicks and not really thinking about it and lowering the hands every time he does it, Quang can 100% catch him with something and possibly put him out. And if not put him out, hurt him and win that round. So that's possible. But I think that without being able to prepare for that kind of game plan, he can know to expect them. He knows they're coming, right? He knows that it's going to happen. So yeah, in his head, he knows I need to check kicks, but he didn't practice it. He didn't train it. He didn't have a camp where he had to train doing everything he has to do in a fight. And at the same time, blocking leg kicks, checking leg kicks, because otherwise he's going to come out here. And if he's really concerned about it, he's going to overthink. And if he's overthinking, he's going to be checking the kicks, sure, but then he's not going to be doing anything else well. He's not going to be able to keep those hands going, maybe keep them up. Maybe he starts checking leg kicks and the hands are low, and Gutierrez can land with the hands up top or throw a kick up top. So that's kind of one of the issues I have here, because I can 100% see Quang coming out hot, having some quick moments, and Gutierrez just skirting laterally, moving, leg kick, go to the head, leg kick, few punches, maybe body kick, leg kick. Because the majority of his strikes in his recent fights, if you look at it, literally the majority have been leg kicks. And so I think that's a good thing for him. At the same time, I kind of think it's a detriment because the dude needs to use his hands. His hands are pretty good too, but he just doesn't really do it often, recently at least. And that could be a problem here. He's had some issues with grapplers too. He can be taken down, but I just don't think Quang's wrestling is like top tier. It works on the regionals, but even then it's like his backup plan. You know, it's not something that he excels at. He's primarily a striker who happens to have some decent wrestling of his own. And he's not like a 26-year-old youngin coming into the UFC. He's 32 years old, almost 33. So not expecting a major ton of improvement. So while I think Quang is decent, and I think he's got a shot, because I could see Gutierrez just being too timid. Recently, he's been a bit too timid. And if he comes out here and is only throwing those leg kicks and they're not working, I could see Quang winning by just doing more. landing more flush on the face and on the head because he's throwing punches. He will 100% throw with his hands. He's not going to come out there and skirt and throw leg kicks like Gutierrez does. He'll use the hands. So, yeah, I favor Gutierrez. Line where it's at now, minus 350. Probably around right. Probably. But I just feel like it's kind of wide. Like, I can't get to it. Like, if I parlayed him, I'd be so stressed out because, like I said, I won't be shocked if he comes out here and is looking to throw those leg kicks, is so hell-bent on using those leg kicks where he's not doing enough with the hands. I can see Quang stealing the fight, coming out there with super high output and just throwing. I can 100% see him come out there and having a performance like that and being able to win. So plus 285, I can't blame anybody getting in on Quang. And if the line gets much crazier, I might do it too. But it's a huge step up. And I don't really think he has the style to beat Gutierrez if Gutierrez just fights like a normal person. So Gutierrez is the pick, and we can move on. The line's not minus 600. And he's it's already up. He was minus 350, I think. If Quang was plus 500, I would bet that 100%. Because like I just told you guys, I have it in my head, a clear path of how I can see him winning. It's not the most likeliest path, but if he was plus 400, but nah, he's plus 280, minus 340 on Gutierrez. I just pulled it up. So yeah, right now it's just a pass. And we can move on. We're up to our main event. We've got Marcin Tybura versus Sergey Spivak. Tybura, 25-8-0. He's 38 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Spivak, 16-4-0. He's 29, so he's 9 years younger. Same height, same reach. So both these guys have similar styles, and they have fought before. This is a rematch. They fought back in 2020. I think it was February. So over 4 years now have passed, and at the time, Spivak was 25 and Tybura was 34. Spivak since then has been improving. He was a younger guy. He's improving coming into his own, and he's still 29. At this point, Tybura is 38 years old, definitely slowing down, and unlikely to be the one who's still improving out of the two of them. And the other major difference is I think Spivak is weighing in heavier now. Pretty sure he weighed in like 20 pounds lighter his last time out against Tybura, and now he's weighing in closer to, we see that 256 pounds on the Tapology. So I think he's a bit heavier now, and that should be a good thing. But to me, it's kind of a weird fight. It's another fight that I want to come back to. There's 3 fights that I want to come back to, and this is one of them. But line feels about right, maybe a little wide. Because, look, in the first fight, Spivak didn't even shoot. I think he shot one time. I'm not quite sure why. Tybura's got pretty good takedown defense, but he can 100% be taken down. And I'm not sure why Spivak didn't push the issue harder there. And if he comes out here and he tries to wrestle himself, I think he's going to have success. I really think he can do it. And in the striking, it's close. Both of them aren't the world's best striker, but neither of them is bad. I think they have similar striking styles. I favor Spivak a little bit more, I think. But he's also pretty hittable, and I wouldn't be shocked if Tybura had success. I just feel like Tybura is so slow these days. He's so slow, and he just doesn't look as great as he used to. So if we're on the feet, I think I slightly favor Spivak. And if we're grappling, it really comes down, for me at least, it comes down to who shoots first. Because I can see either guy taking down the other. If Tybura shoots, he can probably get Spivak down. And if Spivak shoots, he can probably get Tybura down. Then another question is who's got the better cardio? Who's more likely to go 5 rounds? I don't know. I mean, Tybura historically has pretty good cardio. Again, he's very slow, laboring and lumbering, but he has good cardio. I cashed that beautiful ticket against Romanov. That felt good, right? Where he came out, he lost the first round, was able to win the fight just by having better cardio. But I don't think Spivak is a gas bag or anything like that. So I think it should be okay. But yeah, not super confident on my take here. Leaning Spivak. No play from me right now. I'm going to have to tape it a little bit more, but I don't really think I'm going to come out of it with a play. We'll see. We'll see, because I have very little on this card right now. But I'm not trying to force anything, especially not after the last weekend, how that went. So not going to try to force it. I'll retape it in a little bit, probably tomorrow. I like to get my mind fresh again, and then we'll go from there. But Spivak will be the pick for now. And that's it, guys. That is UFC Vegas 95 in all of its glory. Not the best card whatsoever, but we'll make do. And I do think there's some fun fights. I'll run through my picks one more time and my bets, and then we'll get out of here. So we have Stephanie Luciano versus Alencar. I'm going with Alencar, no bet yet. Errens Zalal, I'm leaning Zalal. Williams Diniz, I'm leaning Williams. Rosa Kianzad, I'm leaning Rosa. Not leaning. I think Rosa wins, and I played her at minus 135. Grigoriou, Kazama, leaning Grigoriou. No confidence whatsoever. Only interested in the totals and the overs. Santos, Chandler. Santos is the pick. Barlow, Veretennikov. Barlow's the pick, but Veretennikov is a must play for me at plus 285. Chepe, Jackson. Tentative Chepe pick. Might come around and change it, honestly, because the more I think about it, the more I think Jackson's very, very live here. Gutierrez, Quang. Gutierrez is the pick. No play. Tybura, Spivak. Spivak's the pick. No play. And the bets I have right now, the three bets I have right now are Veretennikov plus 285, 1 unit. Karol Rosa minus 135 to win 1 unit. And about 1.1 units on Santos to win just over 1 unit. And that's it, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you check out my recent interviews that I've been dropping on my channel. Recently got back into it. Dropped interviews with Michael Aswell, who's fighting on the Contender Series in a few weeks. I did an interview with Wes Schultz, who's actually fighting on next week's Contender Series card, which I'm super hype about, and that reminds me. And then, and then I did a few other interviews of some regional guys. Gus Villamil is a dope guy, and I have a lot of interviews coming up. I have 20 interviews scheduled for the next month, so it should be coming out with a lot of those. And then, so with the Contender Series, I did want to mention I'm 100% going to be doing a show. If you guys know me, you know I love Contender Series. It's my favorite time of the year. I love seeing the prospects come in. I love taping them. I just love it. Love Contender Series. Love betting on it. I think there's usually a lot of good spots, especially for guys who tend to lean into the looking for the dogs kind of thing like I do, or looking for the value. And yeah, and I'm possibly working on a show with somebody you guys all know. I don't want to put it out there before me and him agree and decide for sure, but I'm pretty sure we're doing it. And I think you guys will like it. So that should be cool. And yeah, thank you guys all for tuning in. Good luck this weekend, and peace out.